Hey guys, I'm Chanel, and this is The Timeless Journey, a podcast where I share all the timeless lessons that I've learned throughout my life in hopes that it'll help someone just like you. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for tuning into the pilot episode and finding it worth your while to come back for the next episode. And if this is your first time here, welcome. And I hope you enjoy something that's said and that you would want to come back to another episode. So, as I mentioned in the pilot episode, this first series that we're going to be kicking the podcast off with is going to be called Luxurious Friends. We're just going to dive into all the things that I feel like make someone a luxurious friend. And hopefully, it helps someone, encourages someone, and helps you cultivate a better friendship with the ones you already have. Or if you're getting into a new friendship, I hope it helps you too. So, this first episode is on how to be a good friend. And we're just going to dive into the basics, really just kind of scratch the surface. And as we continue on throughout the series, I feel like we'll be able to dive a little bit deeper into everything. But let's just, get our feet wet a little bit? So, jumping right into it, I think the number one thing is being a good listener. If you want to be a good friend, you have to be a good listener. That's just plain and simple. If you're not a good listener, how are you really going to get to know the person? When people have conversations, throughout those conversations, they are sharing their likes, their dislikes, wants, needs, hopes, dreams, aspirations, fears, triggers, things that really set them off or upset them, things that may send them spiraling and things that might send them spiraling downward mentally. Throughout conversations, you get to learn all of these different things about a person. And so if you're not listening, you're not really learning them, are you? If you're talking and no one's listening, that's going to stress you out, is it not? So you should be a person who is listening to others just like you will want someone to listen to you. With that, you need to show that you're listening. Make eye contact, be engaged in the conversation. When you go to respond to them, actually respond with some of the context that they just share with you. Repeat some of what they said to you. Let them know that you heard and you understood them. Ask questions if you don't understand them, because that lets them know that you're actively listening to what they're saying and you're listening to understand, not just to respond. Because that is a thing that people do all the time, listening to respond like you have what you want to say in your head already. And so as they're talking, you're barely paying attention because you just want to input what you have to say. And it's happened to me before where I was having a conversation with someone or thinking I was having a conversation. And when they went to respond, they said something from, I don't know, the very beginning of the conversation. And that's all they were fixated on saying. And then they missed the rest of what was said. And so I had to repeat things, or they were saying things or asking questions to like something I said, but I had already answered it in what I just said. Does that make sense? I was saying things, they were asking questions, I had already answered those questions. So if they were listening, they wouldn't even have the questions? And sometimes it's on you. Like, you need to make sure you're communicating effectively, which goes hand in hand with that listening. You need to be able to effectively state what it is that's on your mind. And so when they're listening, it makes sense. So you don't have that problem too often. But there are times where you are communicating perfectly fine. They're just not listening. So don't be that person who's just not listening. Okay? I think that's pretty simple. And I don't think we need to dwell on that too much. Like, listen to your friends. I actually had a friend back in the day where we talk and they wouldn't hear anything that I said. They would just, one, interrupt me a lot. Like, also don't do that. I can't stand that. Every 5 seconds, there was an interruption. I'm like, can I get the sentence out? It's not like I've been talking for 30 minutes and now you're trying to interject because I didn't leave any room open for you to say words. I said maybe 2 sentences and you talking over me. Girl. Anyways, don't interrupt your friends. Let them say what they got to say and respond to that. And then you can circle back if you need to on something else that you want to say. There's nothing wrong with that. Respond to what they were saying. And if there's something that you want to go back to, you can do that. I do that all the time. And that way, I know my friends know that I heard them and that I understood them. I responded to what they said, and now I want to circle back to something that I had on my mind. I wasn't solely focused on that. I went back to it when it was appropriate. I feel like I just rambled on about that, but yeah, be a good listener. Listen to your friends because if you don't listen, then they're not really going to be your friend because you won't know them. Gotta know your friends. Be a good listener. That's all I'm trying to say. Number two is being considerate. I feel like this goes very well with number one. You're better at being considerate when you're a good listener. You can't consider your friend's feelings or thoughts or whatever if you don't know them, if you don't know what those feelings are, if you don't know what those thoughts are. And how do you know those thoughts and feelings? You listen to them. So, yeah, when you guys are getting ready to go hang out or you're going to have a conversation, whatever the case may be, you need to think about what you're going to say, what you're going to do, and how that will make your friend feel before you say it. And that's in general. People need to be more considerate just in general. And I'm not talking about walking on eggshells because everyone these days is so offended by every little thing. No, I definitely think people need to get thicker skin because right now I feel like everyone's so offended by so many things and it's not necessary. I'm not talking about that. But I am saying that you need to think about others just in general. You shouldn't solely be focused on yourself. You can't go through life only thinking about you, only thinking about what you want, only thinking about your desires and your wants, needs, dreams, things, likes, dislikes. You can't only think about yourself. That's selfish. You shouldn't be thinking about yourself all the time. Yes, there are going to be times where you can't focus on other people. You need to make sure yourself is good, that you yourself are good. Self care is very important, and I stand by that. I'm a big advocate for self care being the best care. So, you should take care of yourself. You should have time to focus on yourself, but that should not be your sole focus your entire life. You have to think about other people. You have to consider their feelings. You have to consider their thoughts because it's just basic human decency. If you want to be a kind, loving, caring person, if you are those things, that means you are considering others. And so when you're entering into your friendships, you need to think about what they may feel if you do this, if you say that. And if it's going to be upsetting, if it's going to be, if you think they're going to think it's mean or not like it, maybe think about saying or doing something else. Or maybe tweak it. Maybe what you're saying or doing isn't necessarily isn't necessarily wrong, but maybe it needs to be adjusted. That's all. Don't walk on eggshells, tiptoe around things because if you feel like you have to do that with your friends, maybe that's also another issue that you need to work through with them because you should never feel like you're walking on eggshells. But you do need to think about their feelings. You do need to think about not coming off a certain way to your friends. If your intention is never to hurt their feelings, it's never to upset them, make them feel down, put them down, degrade them, mistreat them, anything like that. That's never your intention in dealing with your friends or family or whoever the relationship is with. And so, having that in mind, when you go to interact with them, you're thinking, oh, I know she doesn't like when this happens. So I'm not going to do that. I know that he doesn't like when people say XYZ. So I'm not going to say that around them. I feel like if you were just generally a kind and caring person, especially in all of your friendships, you'll naturally be considerate and you won't really have to think twice about it. And so just maybe focus on just having a kind heart and being caring. And when you do that, you naturally consider other people's feelings. And yeah, you won't really have much of a problem. We can talk more about consideration when we get into handling conflicts with your friends, but just for the basics, think about their feelings and maybe try to be kind. Number three is entering into the friendship with a giving mindset. I feel like that one is very important. Oftentimes, people into friendships, any relationship really, with the mindset of what can I get from this? What can I get out of you? What can I receive? What are you bringing to the table that will benefit me? Rather than how can I benefit this friendship? How can I benefit you? What can I bring to the table? How can I give to you? It's an easy one to overlook, but if you shift your mindset into a giving one, I think things will be much better. I found that out personally. I feel like I've kind of always had that mindset, mostly because of how I grew up and seeing how my parents were. My mom and dad are very loving, generous, giving people, whether they got a lot to give, whether they have a lot to give or a little to give. And they consistently do that. They give a lot of their time, their efforts, their money, their love, their care, their whatever, even open their homes. Like all throughout my life, I've always remembered someone needing a place to stay and they came and lived with us for however long, whether it was a couple of weeks or a couple of years. My parents were always very open open and generous and giving. Growing up in a house where both parents were consistent givers in their friendships. And yes, they did receive as well. But growing up with that as an example really shaped my mindset throughout my friendships. So I feel like I've always just been in that, okay, how can I benefit this relationship? How can I give to them? How could I share something with them? How can I make them happy? How can I pour out into this friendship instead of just constantly receiving? I grew up with that example. And so that is something that I cherish. And I try to bring that into all of my other friendships and relationships, whatever. Now, when you enter into a friendship with a given mindset, it's very difficult sometimes if you're not used to it, or even if you are used to it, it can be difficult because if you enter into every friendship relationship with that mindset, you might run into someone who doesn't have that same mindset. And now you're pouring, you're giving, you're sharing, and you're not getting anything in return. You're not doing it to receive. However, you should be receiving. Your goal isn't to receive back from them. Your goal is to give. And if you receive back, that's great and you should be, but that's not your focus. And if you are in a friendship with someone who also has the same mindset as you won't have to think twice because you both are just constantly giving and you're both receiving. You're pouring into their cup, they're pouring into your cup. And it's just going back and forth. You don't want to be in a friendship where you're the one constantly pouring out. Eventually, you're going to be empty because no one's pouring into you. You also don't want to be in a friendship where you're never pouring anything out. All you're doing is receiving. It's a waste. That person's going to be empty, and now you're going to be looking for them to pour more into you, even though you have more than enough, and you're not giving back to them or to anyone else. That's you don't want to be that person either. You want to be in a friendship where you're pouring out and they're pouring out. You're both pouring into each other and it's a constant flow. It's infinite and never stops. Neither of you will be drained. Neither of you will run out because you are constantly giving back to each other. Those are the friendships that are the best. You don't want to be that person that is all about receiving, take, 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 take. And then now that other person has ran dry because all they did was pour out into you and you didn't pour into them. And now they stop giving and now you kick them to the curb. Like, for real? All you did was drain them. You took from them all that you can and never gave anything in return. And now they're empty. And now what? Now they're not good enough to be your friend? Now you kick them to the curb? No. It needs to be reciprocal. You need to pour into them just like you want them to pour into you. It's infinite. The quicker you get the hang of that, the much better off you'll be. I promise you. And when you find that friend who has the same mindset as you, amazing. That friendship will thrive. Number 4 is show up. You need to show up for your friends in the good times and the bad times and everywhere else in between. Show up for your friends. I cannot stress that enough. You want your friends to be there celebrating with you when everything is going great. You want them to be there supporting you when you are feeling really low and are struggling. And you want them to be there with you when you're walking through the process of something, when you're starting a project, when you're working on something, when you're building, everywhere in between, when you're trying to get to that mountaintop. You want them there along with you on the journey. And you should be there for your friends as well when they're low, when they're on the journey, and when they're at the mountaintop. Don't be that friend who's only there for the mountaintop. Don't just be there celebrating with them. And then when they're going through the journey and when they're struggling or feeling really low in the trenches, you're nowhere to be found. Don't be that person. Like, you don't want that person in your life. So don't be that. And don't be the person who's only there when they're in the trenches. And when it's time to celebrate, you're nowhere to be found. My personal opinion, those friends are the most dangerous because sometimes it's hard to tell if they have your best interests at heart. Follow me here. You have a friend that's present in the trenches and they're with you, they're supporting you, or you think they're supporting you. And then when you start to do better, they're gone. They can't celebrate with you. They're not happy for you. But they love to be present for you when you're down, when you're struggling, when you're upset, when you feel like you're failing. They love to be present for those moments. They think that they're your savior in some sense. You know, there are people in the world who only want to see you do good when they're doing better. And so if you're down and they're in this good spot, they'll be present for you and you'll feel like this is the best friend you ever had. But then when you start to do well and they're not praising or celebrating you, you got to look at that a little funny. My personal opinion, that's just a little weird. Be present in the trenches, but also celebrate them. I see it happen to people all the time. They're in this point in life where they're feeling really low, struggling, depressed, struggling with anxiety, or feel like they're failing at whatever task that they're trying to do, whatever project they're trying to start, struggling at their job, whatever. And that friend is there for every little thing. But then when things start to get better, it's like, oh, okay, good for you. Oh, all you do is talk about yourself. Oh, that's great. Yeah, it is great. And you should be more happy for your friend. They're finally out of the trenches. They're finally feeling better. They're finally doing better. And you can't be happy for them? Come on. We don't want those friends. We don't want those ones who are only present and super active when you're feeling low, because I feel like that's the most deceiving type of friend of all. They don't really care about you and they're not really your friend. You don't want a friend who's only present for the highs, and you don't want a friend who's only present for the lows. You want someone who's going to be there through it all, and you should always strive to be that person. Yes, life happens. Yes, you're going to have your own struggles, and there are going to be times where you can't be present for something. That's normal. I'm not talking about that. But when you can, show up. If you can be there, be there. It's very important and it goes a long way. Trust me. Show up for your friends. Number 5 would be to let it flow naturally. I feel like a lot of times people try to force the friendship. You don't need to do that. Just let it be. And it goes hand in hand with number 6. So I'll say that as well. Be genuine. Letting it flow naturally and being genuine, I feel like just go together so well. You should always be yourself. You should never switch it up. Don't act one way in front of one group of friends and then act a different way in front of another group of friends. Be the same all across the board. And I'm not talking about when you go to different settings where you have to adjust accordingly, like if you're in a professional setting versus when you're at home hanging out. That's not what I mean. You should still be yourself, but act accordingly. I mean, your personality, your character, that shouldn't be changing when you're around different people. Be genuine and let it flow naturally. You cannot force anyone to be your friend, and they can't force you to be their friend. Just let it be. Let it be. And honestly, you're not the friend for everyone, and everyone's not the friend for you. So, why on earth would you go out of your way to try to make someone be your friend when it's just not meshing? It's not happening. You don't need to force it, it'll be exactly what it should be. The best friendships that I've ever had in my life happened on their own. I did not make them happen. I didn't go out of my way to try to finesse whatever. Like, it just happened naturally. And don't mistake that for not being intentional, because you should always be intentional when you are trying to grow any relationship. You have to be intentional about how you're approaching the friendship. Like, making sure you're being a good listener, making sure you're showing up for them, making sure you're being considerate, all of those things. You're intentional about that, but you aren't forcing the relationship. Just let it flow, let it be. If it's not working out, it's not working out. Don't try to make it happen. And even if you have friendships that you are in currently, but things are kind of falling apart or fading away, don't go crazy. You put forth the effort to try to salvage, the friendship, because that's important. If you guys have a conflict, you work on handling that. You approach it with honesty and clarity and a loving, kind heart. And if you guys just end up going your separate ways, don't go out of your way to force it to continue. Put forth the effort to maintain your friendship, but sometimes they drift apart. And we can go into that a little further when we get into some of the other episodes, when we start talking about seasonal versus lifelong friends. Because at some point, you're going to come across people that aren't going to continue to be in your life. And that doesn't mean anything is wrong with you or with them. Time just happens, life just happens, and you end up going your separate ways. And those are the things that I'm talking about. Don't force that to continue on when you guys are drifting apart. And by no means am I saying do not fight for your friendships, because, like, I don't want that to be misunderstood. Go full force. If you guys are struggling, if you guys have a conflict, or if you're not understanding something, ask questions. Sit down and have a conversation with each other. Figure out where you guys are, because in life, people have conflicts. People have misunderstandings. That's normal. Okay? And you work through them. You have to put forth an effort to maintain them. But you're not forcing anything. Does that make sense? I hope so. Let it flow naturally. Be your genuine self. Don't try to switch it up. Just let it be. 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 Those are some words of wisdom. Let it be. And lastly, be consistent. All of the above, do those things consistently. Show up consistently. Be a good listener. Be considerate. All of that. Do it consistently. No one likes a flaky friend, okay? You are not a puff pastry. You are not a croissant. You are not baked in a buttery, flaky crust.
Baked on a buttery, crispy crust. That close?
Jack, flaky.
I thought I said flaky.
Okay? You are not a piece of bread. None of that. Do not be flaky. If you say you're going to show up somewhere, show up. If you say you're going to be somewhere, do something, be there, do it. You need to stand by your word. You need to be consistent. When you're consistent, you become trustworthy. People can rely on you. They know they can depend on you. You don't want to be that friend that whenever you guys make plans and they see you're like, oh, yeah, I'm coming. And then they look at your message or they hear you and they're just like, oh, she's not actually coming. He's not actually coming because they always flake. Or I'll believe it when I see it because they always flake. No, be a consistent person in everything that you do, or you say something, or you like, oh, I'm gonna do this. Yeah, okay. Believe it when I see it. No, be consistent. Stand by your word and do what you say you're gonna do, and do it repeatedly. You want to be someone that people trust will keep their word, will show up, will do something, whatever the case may be. You want to be a trustworthy friend, and when you are consistent, you are trustworthy. Like if the only thing you're consistent in is being flaky, you got a problem and you need to fix it. And you're going to do that this year, okay? 2026 is the year of not being flaky. And no, I'm not talking about those times where life happens and you have to back out of something because something came up, you had an emergency, or you're just really exhausted and need to reboot. Self-care is the best care. There are going to be times where you need to take care of yourself and you need to, have a moment alone and just reboot and refresh. And maybe you agreed to do something, but now you just realize that you're so exhausted and you need to take care of yourself right now. You're feeling really drained and you need to go reboot. That's okay. Do that. I applaud you for that. It's important. But if you're consistently flaky, you got a problem, my friend. So yeah, be consistent and be consistent in all that you do. Keeping your word, showing up for your friends, being a good listener, being mindful, being considerate, loving, caring. Be consistent in all of those areas and be consistent in your self-care as well. Okay? Everything that we talked about, if you are consistent in that, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Even when you make a mistake, even when you mess up, even when life gets the best of you, you're consistent in all of these areas, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So, yeah, be consistent. And that's about all I got for you today. I hope something was said that was encouraging or even just provoked your thought a little bit. And if there's something that you think I left out or something you want me to touch more on, please leave it in the comments. Let me know. Engage with me. I love all that. Give me your feedback. And if you hated every single thing that I said, you could tell me that too. I'm totally okay with it. I hope you didn't hate it though. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening and tuning in. And I will see you all on the next episode. Hold up. I almost forgot the shout outs. I promised some people that I would do some shout outs, and it's definitely way more than I initially intended to have. I really wanted to only do 5, but I didn't specify that in the video where I invited the shout outs. So we're just going to say what I have here. It's not too many, but it's more than 5. So bear with me. Nate and Gavin, special shout out to you two because you two were the first to hound me every day to be on the podcast, which the answer is still no. But you also were the first to ask for shout outs. And I hope that you guys have an amazing 2026 year. And I look forward to seeing all the blessings that God has for you both. Everyone, actually. But, special shout outs, special words. Next is Ollie, Susie, Ferland, Latoya, Yaretsi, Jacob G, Sarah, Sloan, Bianca, adult Bianca, and Marilyn, and Keisha, and last but not least, my nephew, Marcus. Dude, you can be on the podcast whenever you want. Whenever you are in town, you show up and you want to be on the podcast, you got it. Also, big shout out to the barcode brands. I kind of always subtly shout them out. And I'm going to continue to do that. So if you see anything that says Baseline, Social, Barco, Swim Crush, Low Dive, Palmetto, or the Black Swan, yeah, Barco brands. And if you're ever in Asbury, hit up the Asbury Park Boardwalk to find some of their spots, or you can go to Deal Lake Barco in Lock Harbor, or also in Asbury, but not on the boardwalk, you can go to Black Swan. And if you're ever in Eatontown on the base of Fort Monmouth, you can go to Baseline Social and get the truffle fries. Mm, so good. Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you tune in for the next episode. I'm Chanel, and this is the Timeless Journey signing off.